Alrighty, we're gonna get right into it with this video. If my voice dies for whatever reason, I apologize. It's kind of hot and sticky. It's not really in the brightest of moods to do like a video because I feel like, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like shit, but we have a news dump for Resident Evil Requiem. And we're gonna talk about all this stuff and get down to the bottom of it. I only want to make videos if there's new pertinent news, if there's a demo, if there's anything involving the game whatsoever for new content and new information. So I'm just not spamming Resident Evil 9 all over the place, right? I'm a super fan of this franchise. I love this franchise since 1997. All right. That's when I first got into it for the first time, but still, it is a thing of I want to keep stuff contained and concise, and hopefully this video also follows that line of making sure that all this news is relevant and up to date and it's interesting to talk about. The first thing here is they updated the website. So I saw this not too long ago. They added in story synopsis, the character that's going to be front and center, Grace Ashcroft, the main character, and they uncovered the story just a little bit. Everything else that I talked about in that first initial reveal is the same for news and information. Grace is an FBI analyst and she's been assigned to a case where her mother was murdered, and that was Alicia Ashcroft, which was a character that was in Resident Evil Outbreak. Alyssa Ashcroft was one of the characters that had like good lock picking and stuff like that, and she was also mentioned in Resident Evil 7. But they revealed something pretty new that sort of jogged the expectations in my mind of saying they're gonna have a legacy character, because in this sentence they say, and I quote, Grace prepares to finally face the past. And I said before that facing the past is gonna have a triple meaning, whether it's for a legacy character, whether it's for Grace and Alyssa Ashcroft's murder, and then as the player is experiencing all of this as well, triple meaning. As she prepares to face the past and makes her way to the scene, but this one case leads to uncovering the hidden truth behind the outbreak in Raccoon City, the biological disaster that shook the world. It seems to me that there's once again another hidden stowaway for what happened with the Raccoon City incident that's going to be uncovered in this game. Naturally, I thought Resident Evil 6 covered most of this stuff, and that most people were like, oh, well, now we're going to go public with it and let the people know with Leon and the president, and they were talking about it. And Leon says, no, sir, I don't think that's a good idea, because you don't know what kind of backlash there's going to be with folks who were behind the incident of dropping the thermobaric bomb on the town, and how that was commissioned and how that was handled. And then Leon eventually says, you know, I'm with you, sir, no matter what. The president convinced him. That just leads to more fucking credence, in my opinion, that I believe a legacy character who knows all this stuff has to be in this game, because there's no way that there is another uncovered mystery of Raccoon City, and there's no way that Leon will not be involved, or someone who knows won't be involved in this situation. I saw there was some fan bickering as to, oh well, whether Leon or Jill shows up. Leon, supposedly fans said he had a lot of trauma behind him, and what about Jill, who endured all this? Look, in my personal experience, I believe an ambitious game, and we had RE games before that had multiple characters, right? I don't mind Grace as the main character, the surrogate character, who is like in there and she's part of the surrogate audience. She reacts to things. She doesn't know what's going on. She never seen the BOW in her life. I don't mind her being the audience surrogate in this particular game, right? That makes sense. But you gotta have some legacy if you're talking about Raccoon City, and with this new information of there is a new secret behind going back to it and seeing that uncovered, that's going to be very interesting. As we know from Resident Evil Outbreak, there are scientists still working within the ruins of Raccoon City and still excavating and still getting viral samples. We know this. There were multiple people there doing this, from Tricell to other people involved to the US government. Yes, I would assume they're gonna talk about those things in particular, and how all of that built up and what they are exactly hiding. And I cannot wait to see all of that, because you know there was some brief snippets here or there of people still doing things there, and I wonder what that is going to lead to. And I'm guessing that's what they're alluding to here, which is why you gotta get the DSO involved at this rate. It's just no fucking way, in my personal opinion, no fucking way you wouldn't have them. This was uncovered by Spearhunter, and she basically saw that in one of the screenshots, if you zoom in like very hard, and they talked about this with the demo as well, in this place that Grace was in, this medical institution, one of the billboards says Rhodes Hill. Now Rhodes Hill is a place that does exist in the Arklay County of Raccoon City. It exists either somewhere near or maybe the outskirts, or it's an outlying community. It housed the subway station as part of Kite Bros Railway. Trains to Rose Hill can be taken from platform 1, and there are trains that can be taken there from the South Raccoon Street station. Little is known about this area, and it may have been destroyed in the sterilization operation at the end of 1998's Raccoon City destruction incident. Grace Ashcroft wakes up in Rose Hill, the Civic Care Center, and it was not destroyed, so it's not clear if it was an old building or a new building. This place does have electricity, and it seems that they're already ready to move with that Raccoon City location if Rhodes Hill was something that was uncovered as a name, and then all of a sudden fans are seeing it from the presentation. It's like, oh shit, this actually has some sort of meaning. It was in Arklay County. We're already near the Raccoon City incident that was, you know, everything was all destroyed and whatnot, as we saw in the trailer. And this guy, whoever kidnapped Grace Ashcroft, he already knows like what is set in stone, and he is extracting the blood. She has the IV drip in her. Clearly all of this is very important for what's going on. We have a long post from Reno the Bouncer talking about some of the gameplay that they showed for the press demo, and I'm only gonna sort through this and go through some of the smaller things here. We see that she manages to escape. Now, one thing someone pointed out in my Discord was that there is a pulse meter UI. I would assume that's going to be the EKG, which is typically known to have the character in fine, which is great health, caution, you get hurt a little bit, and it might be either yellow caution or orange caution, which is more damage, and then danger, you're about to die in Resident Evil. Having it on screen is once again a natural evolution. We also saw that in Remake 2, where if you took damage, it will just show itself automatically as opposed to going to a pause menu. I like these changes. I like the fact that when you go to Resident Evil 7 and you see the state of your health, Ethan has like a little watch on, and it's just something that makes sense to what is going on, like checking your person at all times and seeing what they're going through. And I hope that this has some more evolution going on in the game and how it's presented, and it seems like they're doing that with having an active UI present to reflect maybe a little bit of panic going on with the state of mind of the character, or status ailments, or anything of that nature that's going on that you could see. And speaking of status ailments, I hope that does indeed make a return. If you get poisoned, some shit goes down, maybe you're bleeding, you gotta take care of that. It just adds more to the survival horror aesthetic that the game is going for. Now let's see. It says Grace has little combat expertise. She does have a gun. I did see that. At least you're able to shoot something. But they had zero action in this demo. Going down, she has to rely on her survival instincts. We know that. You can switch to third person at any time. One of the big things about the end of the demo that people cited, not that part, fuck, this part. One of the things that people cited was you have a menu option to go from first person to third person at any time. We know that camera angles within the Resident Evil community is very, very, very contentious, to say the least. There are people that don't like third person. There are people that don't like first person. There are people that don't like fixed camera. All right, we've seen it across the board. There are people who don't like some of those styles, and then there are people who are like, oh, I love this or I love that, and this appeases both sides who prefer a more third-person survival horror experience, and the people who enjoyed Resident Evil 7 or 8 and they want to see it from first person. But one of the interesting things here is that they said for these horror segments they recommend first person. I hope that does not mean that despite having multiple perspectives that the game isn't less scary as third person because they recommend first person for these horror segments. It's kind of a little weird that they say, oh, we recommend it here. And I guess maybe it's gonna be a little bit more immersive, but I hope they still suck you into the experience. This is probably why Capcom took more time to figure things out, because you're making a game with two camera angles and you have to accommodate that, and that is hard work. It truly is. And I saw that they implemented this feature with third person into RE Village, and I didn't mind third person really. It just seemed a little bit like the game wasn't tailor-made for it, and you could tell with some of the animations. But they said for this game third person animations look way better than it did in Village. I will give them the benefit of the doubt. But I personally speaking, for me, I don't mind either camera style. I enjoyed it with first person only in 7, and I like third person with the remakes. Therefore, coming to some compromise is pretty outstanding. It's great. Now if you have one option, you can pick the other and you don't have to complain. Let's see, but I'm thinking to myself, hey, if they're recommending first person for this particular horror segment, for third person, are they gonna recommend action horror there? Like, maybe there's gonna be that armed legacy character that comes back in there. Like, why not, right? That'd make perfect sense in my opinion if they do that. Like, one half is survival horror with this character, the other half is like horror action with another person. Let's see, opening the first door gives an impressively pitch black hallway. The game feels like Resident Evil 7 as I bump around in the dark spaces searching for open doors, every step producing a heart-stopping creak as I fear whatever may be lurking, whatever I may be alerting. It's kind of weird. Despite that being labeled a hotel, Renwood seems like some kind of clinic. Again, I see the Rose Hill things on the wall and the hospital like civic care. Therefore, I think that's where this location is. I think they're already setting it in motion for Raccoon City. Classic RE formula, that's fucking great. More locked doors, gotta go and find keys, and then they have this one segment where they talk about a lit hallway sits behind a gate powered by a fuse box missing one of its fuses, and then apparently you have to go get a screwdriver, and then the lights like blow up at one certain point, which is going to lead to what is going to be the stalking enemy of the game. You have to solve the puzzle in reverse order, searching drawers, and it yields items like a health regenerating shot and a classic green herb. So green herbs are back in the game. That's also cool. The bottle was the only weapon early on, and it was used to distract threats rather than deter them. It seems like some stealth is going to be introduced within this, and that kind of is a little bit reminiscent of Resident Evil Revelations 2, where you could lure enemies away by throwing bottles and stuff and sneak behind them. Maybe, I don't know if you can still do the whole, oh, you sneak behind them, you do a one-hit kill melee, but considering what you're fighting, probably in this situation, probably not. Like, Grace finds the lighter, opens the door that causes a dead body to fall upon her, and that was the first jump scare. A corpse wearing a doctor's lab coat clearly looks infected, though that doesn't stop Grace from checking his pulse and asking if he's dead. An unintentional funny bit. He's fucking dead, of course. He's bereft of life. He rests in peace. Why are you asking that he's dead? But then again, I don't know, like FBI analysts, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can tell a cold case when you see one. And then we see a large mutated arm emerging from the darkness to seize the body, slowly lifting it towards a gray blood-stained maw of a seemingly once human teeth that takes a bite. So the corpse is being eaten, and this is supposedly what people are saying as the new pursuing enemy, which maybe, possibly, could be Lisa Trevor. We're gonna talk about this later. A lot of folks during this presentation, the shackles, the noises, everything, they are saying some of the same things, and that is absolutely fucking insane. That monster has lived for that entire time. But then again, in remake 1, she jumped into a chasm, right? And from what I remember, she takes the head of her mother, the skull, and she jumps into the chasm, and the whole lab is blown up, but Lisa's immortal. And then she goes to confront Wesker again, and again, this is a character that is supposedly immortal. I think she survived that fucking explosion, and she's in Rose Hill. It's just that if it's not, that would be just a crazy new monster. It has a bulbous eye, tattered rag masquerading as clothing. It just sounds like her so much. The monster pursues, squeezing its large mutated form down the narrow corridors. At one point, it grabs Grace and takes a big debilitating bite out of her, necessitating a quick heal. And then you retreat into a nearby room, closing the door, and the monster does not follow through certain doors. So maybe it's like Nemesis kind of does that as well, where there's certain doors he doesn't go into. Same for Jack Baker. He's obviously not going to go into any rooms that have the tape cassettes where you could save. At least some of them, at least the ones I ran into, like safe rooms, he didn't go in there. I assume it's going to be the same logic here, where you run in there, you're probably all good. In certain areas he can't go into. Same for this. The monster crawls inside of the ceiling, hanging. Now, one of the crazy things I saw about this one, I have to interject, but you can hear it in the walls. The fucking sound design on this demo is supposedly crazy, and it reminds me once again of how good the sound was with Mr. X, where you hear the thump, 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 thump. You hear the boots, and you don't know where he's coming from until he's like right in your face, so you're like, oh shit. Right? So in this one, you can hear it through the walls, and that's absolutely terrifying, man. I love it. Everything I'm hearing so far about this demo, I love it. When are you gonna give it to the audience so they can play it? When are we? Don't put like 30 minutes on it though. I think they learned their lesson. No more time demos. The rest of the demo is spent trying to avoid and evade this threat as it periodically resurfaces, at one point crashing through the wall to cut off, just like Jack Baker and RE7. Of course, you gotta come through the walls. But I also heard if they break through the walls, they can make new areas, which is once again intuitive to the gameplay. It feels familiar and terrifying in ways we've come to love since 1996, and I for one am very, very happy they're going to a back to basics character, audience surrogate character, and one that is experiencing survival horror. It's great. It's fantastic. Love it. It isn't clear whether we are in a decade plus future from Resident Evil Villages, Shadows of Rose DLC. No, this is before that. If it's like 2026. This is well before that, in that time jump. I love it. All of this, great options right here. Third person, first person, great shit. There is a few more things we have to go through, but there's something that I want to show from Bakbasoup, and he said something really cool that I thought they were doing with the marketing and stuff like that, and people doubting, oh, there's going to be a legacy character that comes back and Grace is the only character. He says something about the marketing that I totally agree with, and I will let him take the floor for this one, as I want you to listen to this timestamp. Here we go. Hopefully my audio is like all good.
With that being said, I think that this is why I'm thinking this. During the Summer Games Fest, the marketing strategy for this game during that show was weird. No one predicted, well, some of us predicted what was happening, but not a lot of people predicted what was going on. Like, no one's seen the second and the third trailer, the old red herring, the bait and switch, you know? Well, some people knew what was going on, if I may. But regardless, it is clear, okay, marketing team spans out through the whole game, so it's the same marketing team. But the people that decided these trailers at Summer Games Fest is probably the same marketing team that's deciding what happens with the rest of the game, okay? Leon, the longer they don't show Leon, the louder the community's gonna get about, we're going back to Raccoon City, no Jill, no Leon, no stars, no nothing. Like, wait, and then boom, all that shit piles up, like people going crazy, rage bait after rage bait after rage bait, and then months go by. Boom, you see this shadow of someone on a wall with longish hair, you know, and cool pose with a gun to their side. They're marketing the game in this sense. So I could see that that's what's going on. Maybe you play as Grace the whole game. Maybe you do. Maybe you do. Or maybe they're just doing genius marketing where they're getting people to talk more and more about how this is missing. Oh, give us this, give us that. And then bada bing, bada boom, they release a trailer that's like, here's Ada, here's Leon. Oh, you're talking to fucking Barry on the radio. Sheva's here, you know. And then, oh my God, the internet goes fucking crazy, you know. And then you have, you were wrong, you were right. Oh my God, like you have people blowing up. So it explodes the internet. They know how to break the internet, guys. Look at Lady Dimitrescu, okay? The Resident Evil marketing team is typically pretty good.
I agree with that 100%, 200%, fucking 300. All right, this is all building hype. This is all building marketing. This is why I said next time I'm talking about this game, it's not going to be until Tokyo Game Show, because I'm pretty certain, I'm 99.9% positive that's when they're going to show the next trailer 2. And when we see trailer 2, we're gonna see more of an uncovering of certain faces and characters within. I don't really have a problem if they go into the route of it's going to be Grace only, but this story synopsis that I talked about here, uncovering something deeper within Raccoon City, there is no way that the particulars, the certain factions, the people that exist already will not get involved, because it makes no sense otherwise. But if they make it make sense, I'm fine with it either way. But I do want to see that reoccurring face re-experience the nightmare yet again, and I think it's all just genius marketing at the end of the day. Now we have screenshots. This was from one of my buddies on Discord, shout outs to Ninja, and this is the little thing that was not little, it's big as shit. It's just right. Jesus Christ, look at the size of this thing compared to Grace herself. She is a mere pebble compared to how big this motherfucker is. And we see the bloody maw from the corpse that was eaten, of course. Then you have a picture of Grace panicked, obviously, She don't know what's going on. We already surmised that maybe this hooded figure is trying to take the daylight virus out of her, because he says, oh, you're the chosen one, you're important, therefore it has to be the blood. It has to be the blood, the IV drip, everything. This is kind of reminiscent to the excuse me, this is kind of reminiscent to the Village of Shadows books, and I'm wondering, are they gonna keep that same sort of symbolic fairy tale up with that? I don't know what this means. Obviously it just says shadow ghost, and that can mean anything within the story. That could mean anything. Maybe it will have some symbolism. I guess we're gonna have to find out as it plays out. But here's Grace with the lighter in first person, Grace with the lighter in third person. There's the giant hand that we see, and it's just so fucking creepy, dude. It's so sick looking. I love it. All right, you get like pictures of the hallway and Rose Hill. Everything's obviously all like, I wouldn't say there was one shot in here where there was a nurse walking through here. I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe she's gonna be a survivor. Oh, I have no clue. And here's a shot of Grace with her jacket, and she kind of looks a bit like Rose and Claire Redfield from Revelations 2 just mashed into one. She clearly loses her jacket as well. And here's a shot of her in the hallway with the lighter, being very scared as to what happens next. Look, I cannot wait for this game. This is one of my most anticipated titles for 2026, next to Grand Theft Auto 6. It's gonna be a hell of a year next year, and like I said, can't nobody say gaming is dead, because if you do, especially for 2026, you might just have a screw loose. Anyway, I'm Renegade Operative. I am signing out. This is my take on all of the information we received for Resident Evil 9. Sound off in the comment section below and tell me, do you enjoy what you've seen, and what is your theories and speculation and analysis of this game? Sound off, let me know. Like the video if you like it, dislike it if you disliked it. I will see you guys next time. Later.